All right, class, first off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. Today's lesson is going to be about the French and Indian War and the beginning parts of the American Revolution. Sorry, not the French Revolution, the American Revolution. And we're going to get into what really caused it. What was the boiling point? What made the American colonists upset that they got to the point where they wanted to go to war for their independence? Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about today. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the objectives. All right, so we're going to analyze the effects of the French and Indian War. Then we're going to critique the actions of the Boston Tea Party and its effectiveness, you know. And then we're going to develop a logical argument if raising taxes is the only way to raise money. Okay, so here's your warm up picture. Okay, now um, it's a lot easier to see in color to see the distinction between the uniforms, but just in case some people just can't watch the video for whatever reason, or the you can't really make out the color, the question I'm asking is this: from your analysis of this picture, looking at it, seeing the people who are on the ground bleeding, the momentum of each side, who do you think is going to win this battle? The people on the left or the people on the right? Okay. So remember, the way they're facing, that's where they're going to charge. Okay. So don't think because this person's like on the ground, looking this way, oh, I don't know what side they're on. Well, chances are they're on this side. The area they're facing, that's where they're charging towards. So based off your analysis of this picture, who do you think is going to win this battle? Okay. The people on the left or the people on the right. And again, justify. Why do you think this? Okay, so again, look at the whole picture, the foreground, left to right, in the background. Tell me what you think. Okay, so I'm gonna pause the video in three, two, one. All right, so the French and Indian War. This whole thing happened based off of, how do you say, like a technicality, or basically each side, the French and the British, they couldn't agree on something. Okay, now if you look at that map, that baby blue area, that's all the territory that France owned. They owned the land up until the Mississippi River. Now, the British, they owned all that red territory up until the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. So if you look at that bluish, reddish striped area, that is territory that both sides felt, well, we own that because the French said their border was the Mississippi River. And the French were like, well, no, that land's ours because you guys said your border is the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. So each side, that's unclaimed territory. So each side basically thinks they own it because the other side this said this is our border. Okay, and that's where they're fighting for. Um, and again, the Ohio River Valley, another big part of it. The other big thing about these two countries are they hate each other. They are rivals. So if you want to put in sports context, it's like the 49ers and Raider fans. The San Francisco Giants and the Dodgers. The, New York Yankees and Boston. Just two groups of people that just don't like each other. And that's what these two countries are, two countries that hate each other, and they've had centuries of fighting one another. Now, here's the thing: um, the French had a lot of help from their Native American groups. Now, based off the term French and Indian War, you would think it'd be the French and the Indians versus the British, and that's it. No, no, really, no. Because the thing is, and I'll be explaining more of this on TikTok. I'm gonna make a video on this. The British actually had Native Americans help them as well. Okay. But again, it just sounds like two groups going against this one British group. And no, it wasn't like that at all. Now, here's the thing though. For 5 years, these guys fought in that wilderness area. Everywhere you see that blue and reddish lines, that's territory where they fought. They tried to control it. They were wanting that land. The fighting, believe it or not, even spread back to the old country. France and Britain were fighting each other even over there, and it spilled into other battles and wars going on, and that was the 7 Years' War. Okay, now eventually, through it all, Britain would win. Okay, and the thing is, Spain actually jumped in to fight to help out uh, the French. Now the thing is, I'm sure a lot of you guys know this, but some of you guys may not. During war, when your side loses, you have to give up stuff, which would typically be land, territory that you lost or that you were fighting for. You would lose that land, and that's what happened here. Um, France and Spain had to give up a bunch of land. Florida, which is again at the very bottom, they had to give up that land, you know, and basically all the land up until you hit the Mississippi River. So all that land you saw that was crisscross blue and red, that land now belonged to Britain. So now the British have won. Yay! All right, way to go. Now it comes to the real thing that nobody really talks about after war: paying back loans and things like that. War is not cheap. And sometimes governments have to borrow money to pay for the soldiers, food, ammunition, and things like that. So governments have to borrow money. And when time's up, okay, great. Congratulations, you won. Now pay us back our money, you know? And that's what Britain was like, okay, well, we have to pay back. So they started paying back some loans. And also, they needed the money to govern, protect the new territory. Because under the treaty, there was a little condition that was done. Now, what did the colonists think? The colonists were basically like, okay, cool, we got this new territory. Let's move out that way. And this is why the British needed that money, to again protect that territory. Because the Proclamation Act of 1763 said that that territory was going to remain with the Indians. Yeah, Britain, you owned it, but the Native Americans could still live there. And the British did not want the American colonists to go into that Native American territory, and all of a sudden now we got another fighting going on. They didn't want another war. So they told the colonists, no, you cannot expand out there. You stay where you are. We got, a treaty going on, so you can't expand. And that upset some people. At the same time, the British government found out that the colonists were actually doing some shady stuff. They were actually smuggling goods into the colonies without paying the taxes. Okay, and tax money is how governments basically provide for things. And Britain really needs that money to pay back their loans. And now they find out, wait, these colonists, we basically do all this stuff, and then, basically in their territory, and this is how they're paying us back? No, 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 don't. That's not right. So the British government decided, what? There's a one way we can make our money, and nothing the British people or the colonists can really do. And this is a plan that they know they're going to get their money. So that plan called for direct taxes. Okay, so they're going to introduce new laws, new acts to put a direct tax. Now, what is that? Well, if you've ever gone to the store and you saw, bag of chips that says like $1.99, when you go to the register, it's not going to cost $1.99. It's going to cost like $2.18. You know, why is that? Because when you go to the register, they automatically put that tax on there And that's how the government, gets their money. So that's what this government did. Said, okay, first thing we're going to do, put a tax on sugar. It's called the Sugar Act. So any type of sugar or molasses, there's a tax on it. Well, the colonists were like, you know what? We don't really need sugar, and if we do need sugar, we'll use it sparingly, you know. So the British government was like, okay, you want to play like that? Fine. So we're going to put the Stamp Act. Basically, it required a stamp to be placed on any printed material, legal papers, playing cards, uh, books, anything coming from Britain to the colonies that basically was made of paper had to have a stamp on it that showed, hey, you paid your tax on this item. Again, the American colonists were like, you know what, we don't need legal papers there. We can make our own paper in the colonies. We can make our own deck of cards. We can print out our own paper. We're good. We don't need that. So then Britain's like, okay, you guys really want to play? All right. Townshend Act. New tax on glass, lead, paper, paint, tea. And on top of that, the custom officials, the guy who makes sure that things coming from the boats into land, make sure that they're okay, they're counting it, and make sure everything's all cool, that the taxes are being paid on it. Those guys could now arrest smugglers. That'd be like a meter maid. Those people who check make sure the cars are parked on the street, make sure the meter is all paid still. It'd be like them having the authority to arrest you for like shoplifting and things like that. It's like they're typically their job is just to make sure the cars are still in the meter. You know, but in this case, no, hey, you can arrest, things like that. Then comes the Intolerable Acts, which are basically three acts in one: the Tea Act, Quebec Act, and Coercive Act. Now, the thing is, there's a lot of colonists who, just are getting more and more upset with every new tax coming in. And the thing is, there's nobody in the House of Commons and the House of Lords, which is Britain's like Congress. There's no representative there. There's nobody there representing the colonists saying, hey, I get you guys need money, but you're like squeezing every penny out of the people over there. You guys should really think about other ways to get money. They have no representation. There's nobody in the Congress who's speaking for the colonists. Everyone in that Congress is from England, so they could care less about these different taxes because it's not affecting them, it's affecting the colonies. And this is where the popular phrase, the rally cry, no taxation without representation, comes from. Okay? Now, due to this anger, especially from the Stamp Act on, um, people start becoming more comfortable talking about revolution, becoming independent from uh, Britain. Now, the thing is, there's already been a group who's been secretly talking in taverns, in like secret. And these guys are known as the Sons of Liberty. And a couple of the main guys are Samuel Adams, yes, the guy who's named after beer, yeah. Paul Revere and Benedict Arnold. Uh, Later on, I'll be making a TikTok video about these guys and like what made them unique and things like that. But these guys were some of the first people to actually talk about independence. And now that they've seen more people getting upset and angry and want to talk about revolution and being independent, now they're like not scared anymore to talk about it. They're actually like, you know what? We hid in the back rooms of bars and stuff like that to discuss independence. Now people are starting to talk about it. So let's get out there and let's start sharing what we've been thinking about. All right. So the Tea Act is talked about. It's told, hey, it's going to go into effect on this day and things like that. Well, the day before the Tea Act goes into effect, 150 men decide to board a British ships and dump the British tea overboard. Now, some of these guys dressed up like Native Americans to kind of make like, oh my goodness, it's not us, it's Native Americans who are tossing the tea over. It's not the colonists. Some people dressed up as natives, the other guys didn't. But the thing is, people knew, hey, that's so and so. You know, he's light skinned. He's not, you know, tan and things like that. So no one's going to confuse a colonist with a native. So why they did that, really? They thought maybe they can get away with it. But in total, 342 crates of tea is dumped into the harbor, and this becomes known as the Boston Tea Party. Now, going back to that coercive act, basically because of the Boston Tea Party, that's where the coercive act was. There was a stipulations added to it where they said Boston had to pay for the damaged tea. They were banned from having town hall meetings, so they couldn't all gather and talk about revolution and things like that. No, no, no. All that stuff had to be said in the street or in people's homes, in smaller areas instead of one big building where everyone could get together. And on top of that, a new governor was appointed, and his name was General Thomas Gage. If you watch the TikTok video about the French Revolution, I'll actually be talking about him. He plays a role, actually a major role, in the French and Indian War. And on top of that, the king sends 2,000 more British troops into Boston. Now, why does he do all this? The hope is to discourage any more type of destruction uh, of British property or goods in Boston and the other colonies. Basically, like, hey, you do this stuff again, we're really going to do this to you. We're really going to come after you and things like that. We're done playing around. Okay. Now, the town of Concord was the first group to really have Minutemen. Okay. Again, I'll be making a little TikTok video about Minutemen as well. But really quickly, Minutemen were guys who had guns right next to their door. Um, Anytime there was a call for, hey, we need people to fight. We need people to fight. These guys can get up, get ready to go fight in less than a minute. Um, Now, one of the biggest things that I've realized is that throughout my years, a lot of people think, oh, every single person who was a colonist wanted to go to war, was thinking about independence and things like that. Again, guys, that's not the case. Not everyone wanted to go to war. Some people felt that a neutrality was best. There should be a peace between the colonies and Britain. Let's see if we can find a common ground. But then there were some people who were like, no, 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 we are descendants from Britain. We are loyal to the crown. If it wasn't for them, we would not be here. We owe a lot to Britain, so we have to remain loyal to them. Now, certain states were very, very patriotic. Talk about independence and breaking off and becoming our own country. And some of those countries were the New England countries, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and things like that. States like Virginia. Then you had some states were very loyal. Again, not everyone was loyal, but a majority of the people there were loyal. States like Georgia, North and South Carolina, and believe it or not, I thought this was interesting. New York. As much as you hear people from New York talking about how they're so American and things like that, and they're patriots, it's like, well, your guys' great, 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 great ancestors, no, they actually majority of them favored to stay loyal to the king. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Now, news came to uh, General Thomas Gage that in Concord, they were storing guns and ammunition. And one of his main purpose was to stop any type of revolution, any type of disruption that could hurt the British Empire. And when he heard about these Minutemen and he heard about all this guns and ammunition, he's like, oh man, this could really disrupt everything here. So he sent some troops to go over to Concord to confiscate the guns, the ammunition, and things like that. So on the night of April 18th, 1775, 700 troops make their way towards Concord. But in the town of Lexington, which is pretty close to Concord, there were 70 Minutemen waiting for them. They drew their guns. The British lined up, drew their guns, and then just sat there. They're just both with their guns, just waiting. Neither side wants to shoot because they know once either side shoots, all hell's going to break loose and it's going to cause a domino effect. You know, one thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, and it's just going to just fall. So both sides just there, looking, aiming, and then all of a sudden, bam! A shot is fired. Who shoots? No one knows. Still to this day, we have no idea who shot first. But we do know is that once that first shot was fired, both sides exchanged gunfire, and the war technically has begun. So, with the French and Indian War, do you think that's, you know, remember the French and the British, they hate each other, they're rivals. Do you think some type of negotiation could have been done, or do you think due to the rivalry that was impossible? So, in simpler terms, do you think these guys could have talked it out like, hey, okay, you know what, we'll take half of this land, you take the other half. This is, you know, you're closer to that side, we're closer to this side. Do you think they could have talked it out and made some type of negotiations, or do you think because they've been rivals for way too long that any type of discussion, negotiation would be a waste of air? What do you think? So again, do you think negotiations could have happened between the French and the British that they could have avoided war, or do you think no, 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 because they are such heated rivals, they keep bumping heads over the centuries? Do you think negotiations is impossible? So tell me what you think. Write down what you think and explain why. Okay. Now, once you're done with this question, you're done with the lesson. All right. So hopefully you learned something new. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Um, Again, I'll be making a TikTok video about the French and Indian War and a little bit about the what happened and the whole shebang of it. Okay. So if you're interested, be sure you check that out later. Okay. So with that being said, guys, you take care, you be safe, and I'll see you guys later. Okay.